What's happening, everyone? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today we're doing another head-to-head comparison. This time taking a look at the Lincoln Corsair, comparing that with the 2021 Lincoln Nautilus to figure out exactly what's going on size-wise, dimensions, spacing, things like that. It's going to be an exciting time. Before we get started, want to give Formula Lincoln a huge shout out and a thank you for giving me access to these two vehicles to shoot the video for you today. Drop down in the comments section below in order to find their contact details. Now the channel also is growing really well right now, so once it hits 5,000 subscribers, going to be giving away an exotic car driving experience or two. It's going to be exciting, but let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what the sizing difference is between the Corsair versus the Nautilus. Now starting off, taking a peek underneath the hood of the Corsair, we do technically have three available choices underneath the hood from a power perspective. We're looking at either a 2-liter turbo or 2.3-liter turbo, or there's a hybrid available. Now the hybrid, we're going to skip this year because it's very limited availability. But looking at the 2-liter turbo, it's going to be able to push out 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, while the 2.3-liter is going to be able to push out 295 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. So tons of power when it comes down to it. Do you have to look at the 2.3? Not necessarily, but it's going to depend on how much power you really love. Now taking a look under the hood there, as you can see, we've got easy access in order to top up some fluids if we need to. We can easily check or change our oil, and we've also got easy access to the battery and then the fuse panel. Now looking at some standard technology inside of the Corsair, so as you can see there, we've got our backup camera. There also is the reverse sensing system. On top of that, it does have a blind spot system, lets you know if anybody's into the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And there also is a lane keeping system, so lane keeping and lane centering. Now when we come up with some optional technology, we do have the option to get the Lincoln Copilot 360 Plus package, which that's going to also give us that front camera, which gives us the forward sensing system, which means that we've got a full 360 camera that's available inside of this vehicle. When it comes down to filling up fuel inside of this vehicle, so on the driver's side, capless system, all we're going to do is insert your hose and you're set to go. When it comes down to fuel quality, so just your regular 87 octane is the minimum manufacturer's recommendation. Having said that, the horsepower and torque specs that we're looking at across every OEM, that's always done when you use a premium fuel. So for the Lincoln specs, they use 93 octane. Do you need to use a higher premium fuel? No. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just your regular 87 gas. Now having said that, you absolutely will notice a difference of about 10% going from your 87 octane to at least a 91 octane. So whether or not you decide to go that route is ultimately going to be up to you. But having said that, that higher octane will burn a little bit cleaner, which will lead to a longer engine life as well. Taking a peek underneath the hood of the Nautilus. So the Nautilus lineup are going to have two available engine choices, the 2-liter turbo that we're looking at here, or it also does have an optional 2.7-liter turbo instead. From a power perspective, the 2-liter is going to be able to push out 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, while the 2.7-liter engine is going to push out 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. So a ton of power inside of this, whether you look at the 2-liter or the 2.7-liter instead. Actually, looking underneath the hood, as you can see there, we've got the ability to easily top up some fluids if we need to. We can either check or change our oil if we have a preference to do that ourselves, and we've also got easy access to our battery, so if we ever need to give anybody a boost, we can easily do that. Looking at some standard technology inside of the Nautilus, so as you can see there, we've got our backup camera. We also do have a reverse sensing system. Now this vehicle also is equipped with a blind spot system, so it lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, and it also does have a lane keeping and a lane centering system, which you can toggle that system on and off if you really don't like it. Now on top of that, we do have an optional 360 camera, so as you can see there, we can just kind of make out that camera along the bottom there, and we also do have a forward sensing system when we get that package. So a ton of different options that are going to be available and standard inside of this vehicle as a default. Filling up fuel inside of the vehicle is a very straightforward process. So along the entire Lincoln lineup, capless system, insert your hose, fill up, and you're set to go. When it comes down to fuel quality inside of the Nautilus, in the regular 2-liter engine, and even the 2.7, it's just your regular 87 gas, so regular 87 octane. Do you need to use a higher quality? No, but you'll absolutely notice a difference if you go between the 87 versus the 91. So definitely recommend, especially if you're going to be going the 2.7-liter engine, use that higher octane, like ideally a 91 or ideally a 93 if you've got the budget for it. When it comes down to towing inside of the Corsair, regardless of whether you're looking at the 2-liter or the 2.3-liter engine, they're both going to be able to tow the exact same amount. When you get the tow package from the factory, they're going to be able to max out at 3,000 pound towing capacity. Now this one here does not have the tow package on it, but getting the tow package from the factory, it's cut out nicely into the bumper. On top of that, you also will have trailer sway control, which is one of the big reasons why you want to look at getting the tow package from the factory. Unless you're doing something small like just bike rack carriers and things like that. But if you're actually towing something, The trailer sway control, what that's going to do is, if the vehicle senses that there's trailer sway going on, it's automatically going to apply engine braking in order to get that sway under control. So it definitely is a benefit looking at that package from the factory instead. Now taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle, so very straightforward. We've got our unlock and our lock button. Remote start, we've got the ability to remote start directly through the key fob, or we've got the option of using our cell phone using the Lincoln Way app instead. We've got our trunk release as well as our horn or our panic alarm, and we've also got a traditional key fob. So if we ever need to get inside of the vehicle, we can use that in order to get emergency access to the vehicle. Now, in order to be able to get into the trunk of the vehicle, we can just double press that button on the key fob in order to open it up. But one of the nice things about the Lincoln lineup is that we also do have a foot-activated power liftgate. So if your key fob's in your pocket, hands full of groceries, kids, whatever the case may be, all you need to do is just swipe your foot underneath and step back. Look at this. Power up. Let's have a peek inside the back here. All right, so as you can see there, cargo dimensions are showing up on screen, so we've got a ton of space that's available inside of this. Now, one unique thing for the Corsair as well is that we've got the ability to slide that second row backwards or forwards. So if we need a little bit of extra space, you can get about an extra 3 inches by moving that seat as far forward as it can possibly go. All right, now let's compare that sizing when we've got both rows folded down there. So as you can see, even more space, and we've got some good amount of depth there. Now we are a 60-40 split, so 60% driver, 40% passenger. So we've got the ability to easily fold one side down to the other if we need to. Now taking a look along the back of the vehicle here, so a few things to point out. As you can see there, we do have a traditional cigarette lighter adapter. We've also got the ability of installing a privacy shade if we want to. Now when it comes down to that second row, the seats themselves are powered down and then manual up. So we've got the ability to either press and hold, so very easily as you can see, so seat down. As I mentioned, we just have to manually lift the seat back up. Moving down, as you can see there, we do have, this is going to be the standard cover for this back. We do have the option of adding the thermoplastic rubber tray instead if we'd like to. Lifting up the cover there, as you can see. Now the mini spare tire is available as an option. It's not going to come standard inside of the Corsair. This one does have it available. So whether you get that one or not, it's going to be a matter of personal preference. We do have a little bit of storage along the sides as well. When it comes down to towing inside of the Nautilus, towing power, whether you're looking at the 2-liter or the 2.7-liter, they're both rated for the same. You're going to be able to pull up to 3,500 pounds if you get the tow package directly from the factory. Now, do you need to get the tow package from the factory? No, but a few benefits is that on top of the look of it, because it's going to be cut into the bumper nicely, it also is going to give you that trailer sway control, which you cannot upgrade after the fact as well. So you do need to get that directly from the factory. So if you're going to be pulling a trailer, boat, things like that, get the package from the factory. If you're looking at just doing like a bike rack carrier and things like that, you can look at something aftermarket as an install instead. Now taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle, so as you can see there, we've got our unlock and our lock button, remote start, our trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic alarm. On top of that, we also do have another key as well, so if we ever need to get emergency access to the vehicle, we can easily do that. Now, one thing that's nice is that we do have the ability to remote start directly through the key fob, or we can use our cell phone instead. So whether you're looking at an Android or an iPhone device, you can use the Lincoln Way app in order to be able to remote start, and you can also do a number of other things directly through that app as well, which is great. Now getting into the trunk of the vehicle, we've got a few different ways. So on the key fob, as you can see there, we can double press that button in order to get into the trunk. We've also got the option just underneath the L in Lincoln. There's a button underneath that we can use in order to lift this thing up. But one of the nice things about the Lincoln lineup is that we also do have a foot-activated power liftgate. So key in your pocket, hands full of groceries, of kids, whatever the case may be. All you're gonna do is just swipe your foot underneath and step back. And as you can see, foot-activated power. Love it. Let's have a look inside. Now taking a peek at the cargo dimensions of the vehicle. So as you can see there, we do have quite a little bit of extra space in the back of the vehicle, and that second row is a 60-40 split, so 60% driver, 40% passenger. So we've got the ability to easily fold down one side or the other if we need a little bit of extra space. Now take a look at the difference there. When we have that second row folded down, we've got a bunch more space inside of this. Now, we do have the option of folding down the driver or the passenger seat separately if we need to. So if you want to create a little bit more space, one side or the other, we've got the ability to easily do that. Now, a few things to point out in our cargo area. So along the back there, as you can see, we do have the option of adding in a privacy shade if we need to, so we can easily hook that up, or we can take it out very simply. Along the left side, we've got a 12-volt adapter there, so traditional cigarette lighter adapter, and we've also got power seats. So in the Nautilus, the second row seat is going to be power. Now, having said that, it's powered down, but we do have to manually lift it back up. So one thing to consider there, but as you can see, we can press and hold the button in order to be able to drop either seat down. Very straightforward there. And looking down, so this is going to be the standard cover that we're going to see inside the vehicle. We do have the option for a thermoplastic rubber tray instead. So if you're going to be carrying dogs and things like that, and you want to make sure that this stays a little bit cleaner, you've got that option. Taking a peek underneath the back, as you can see there, we do have our mini spare tire, which is going to be standard. We've got our little spigot, as well as a bunch of storage space along both sides as well. When it comes down to second row spacing inside the vehicle, so I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall, and I still have a boatload of knee room. I've got some good foot room in there as well. Now up overhead, I've got about less than an inch of headspace. Now, one thing to note, I've got about an inch of headspace because we've got the twin panel sunroof here. So if you've got some taller people, they might need to sit in the front seat. But one of the nice things about this vehicle is that we also have the ability to recline these seats slightly if we need to. When I recline it back, just kind of relaxing, it switches it out. I've got about 2 inches of headspace, 2.5 inches of headspace. So knowing that we can recline those seats back a little bit if we need to. Now, one of the nice things that's unique to the Corsair is that we've also got the ability to slide these seats forwards and backwards as well. There's a little lever in between our legs. We can just move that in order to move the seat forwards or backwards a little bit, which when the seat's all the way back, I've got infinitely more room for my knees. And then looking at it, so as you can see, 60-40 split. So when those seats are kind of off center, we've got the ability to kind of pull them back and forth if we need to create a little bit more cargo space in the back. Now looking at the second row, so as you can see there, we do have some cargo nets. That's going to be the same for the driver passenger side. Now as I mentioned, this is a 60-40 split and these seats are adjustable. So as you can see there, we've got the one seat on the passenger side that's pulled forward as far as it'll go, and we can slide this other seat forwards and backwards as well, which is nice. So we do have the ability to move those forwards and backwards if we need a little bit more space in that back. Now one thing to point out, as you can see, we do have some cup holders, so we can just drop that down if we'd like to, click it back up into place. Moving along the little console in the back, so as you can see there, we do have the option for heated second row seats. Now the heated second row seats are not going to be standard. You do need to have the Elements package in order to be able to get that. The Elements package is going to give us heated second row seats, heated and cooled front seats as well. Now when it comes into the actual heating itself, it's going to be for the outboard seats. This middle seat is never going to be heated inside of the Corsair. Second row spacing inside of the Nautilus. So I'm 6 feet tall, the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. I still have a nice amount of knee room, so more than enough, and I've got some decent foot space as well. Now one thing to note, this second row is not adjustable like we would find in the Corsair or the Aviator, so definitely something to take into account. But having said that, we can adjust the backrest a tiny little bit. So we can move it back a bit. When that happens, I've got about an inch of headspace. So not a ton. So if you've got somebody who's 6'4", 6'5", they're definitely either sitting in the front seat or you're looking at the Aviator or the Navigator as an option instead. Now looking at some second row features, as you can see there, we do have our pockets along the driver and the passenger side, and we also do have heated seats. So as we start to move down a little bit, we've got a traditional wall outlet as well as our USB and our USB-C. So a few different ports to charge some things up. Now as we start to look along the back as well, so really, really nice look. I love how sharp this seat looks inside of it. Nice contrast between the black and the browns there. But moving down there, as you can see, we've got a few cup holders. We're just going to pull that down and click it in order to lock it back into place. Now taking a peek along our driver's side door, one thing to point out, this is actually our seat adjustment buttons. Normally in most vehicles we would find it along the driver or the passenger seat, but on the Lincoln lineup they've decided to move it out to the door instead. So we can easily adjust our seat from there. We do have optional massage chair seats as well as 3 individual seat memory profiles. So really nice if you've got multiple drivers inside of this vehicle. It will remember the preference that you've got set up for your seat, for the steering wheel, as well as for your side view mirrors. Moving down, as you can see, we do have our unlock and our lock button, the ability to adjust our side view mirrors, and we've got our window control. A really, really nice look to this. Now this is the cashew interior inside of the vehicle, so really, really great look. And now we do have a Revel audio system as well. The number of speakers that you're going to get inside the vehicle are going to depend on what package you have. Now taking a peek just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, so a few things to point out. As you can see there, we do have our trunk release, so we've got the ability to open and close the trunk from the inside, turn on our fog lamps. We've also got our selector switches for our running lamps and the ability to increase or decrease the brightness for that cluster screen. When it comes down to adjusting the driver's seat inside of this vehicle, just along our driver's door, we've got a series of levers. We can move that seat up and down, back, forward, etc. And there also is the option for massage chair seats, which are really, really nice. Adjusting the steering wheel is a telescopic and power wheel. So just along our left knee, we've got a little rocker pad, and we can use that. It's telescopic, so we can go up and down. We can bring it towards us. We can move it away. And one of the nice things, as I mentioned, so once we've got our steering wheel set up, as well as our seat and our side view mirrors, press and hold either 1, 2, or 3 to set up your own personal profile. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel. So first of all, I love the look of this, especially in this cashew interior. Really, really nice look. Now, one thing to note, the steering wheel is available heated depending on which package of the vehicle you're in. Those details are going to be showing up down below. But I love the look of this thing. Now, one of the nice things about the Lincoln lineup is that they're getting into this kind of like hidden button press. So as you can see there, the buttons that are going to be available are going to be based, and they're essentially dynamic. So it's going to be based off of whatever you're doing. So it's kind of neat. We'll get to these buttons in just a sec, but starting off along the left-hand side there, we've got the ability to change between songs or radio stations. We can either increase or decrease our volume by moving this rocker up or down. This one, now the vehicle itself is equipped with adaptive cruise control in certain packages, but the adaptive cruise control is essentially a set it and forget it cruise. So you set it at, let's say, 100 on the highway, car in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake as well. If they pick up speed or get out of the way, it'll pick you right back up to your set speed again, which is kind of nice. As you can see there, we do have a few different buttons. Now the buttons themselves are actually going to be along the back there, so we just slide our fingers in the back, and we can either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time, and we can also resume. So as I mentioned, it's got stop and go as well, so it can actually bring you down to a complete stop before resuming your speed. But if you get a little antsy and you decide to hit the brake yourself, you just hit the resume button to bring you right back up to your set speed again. Now along the right-hand side there, we've got a few other buttons that have shown up, and again, these are all tied to the adaptive cruise control system. The button along the very bottom is going to be our distance indicator, so we can kind of see that one moving there. So the distance indicator is going to control how close or how far we are away from the vehicle that's in front of us. Next one in the middle is going to be for our lane centering system. So the vehicle actually does have a lane centering and lane keeping system that works 3 different ways. If we start to veer over into a lane, it's actually going to shake the steering wheel almost as if we're running over rumble pavement. Way number 2 is that it'll recenter the steering wheel and actually pull you back into your lane. And way number 3 is it'll shake and it'll recenter you and pull you back into your lane. This is going to be our generic cancel button as well, so you can either cancel there or you can press the brake, and then we can just turn the adaptive cruise control system off there as well. Now we do have the ability with the adaptive cruise to actually set up cruise 3 different ways. The first one is going to be just your regular normal cruise control. The second one is going to be the adaptive, where the vehicle automatically brakes and picks up speed for you. And then the third one is going to be intelligent cruise control. Now the intelligent cruise control is an interesting one because that's going to be based off of a tolerance level. So let's say if you've set it to 60 kilometers an hour and the speed sign drops from 60 to 50, it'll automatically slow you down to whatever the posted speed is instead. So it's a really, really smart system from that perspective. Looking along the top, this is going to be your voice command button, and that's going to give us the ability to either make phone calls, change radio stations. If we were connected through either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, we could use either Siri or our Google Assistant instead by pressing that button. Moving along the other side, so the right-hand side there, we've got the ability to switch between some active screens. So tire pressure, we've got our trip counters, and a number of other things. Our buttons along the right side are all going to control what's going on here. So we've got the ability to look at our audio, we can look at some navigation, we can jump back, we can make phone calls, and we can look at some basic settings. So we've got the ability to kind of tweak this display a little bit, so we can add the tachometer to the view as well if we'd like to. And moving back home, as you can see, it's kind of given us a split screen. Now this is a digital screen. It's not going to be standard inside of the entire lineup. It's available in some of the lineup. Now this is going to be the digital screen that's available across the entire vehicle lineup, so it does look really, really sharp. But as you can see there, we've got the ability to switch some things out if we need to. If we want to kind of tweak the look out a little bit, we've got the capability to do that. We don't have the ability as of yet in order to change the color scheme around if we'd like to. If you're looking for a more in-depth look on not only instrument cluster and screen, but also on that Sync 3 screen, check down in the description below because I've put together a comprehensive walk-around video really diving into what these features are and how they actually work. But looking along the steering wheel there, as you can see on our left-hand side, we've got our minus button and we've also got the plus button there. So we do have the ability to switch between gears if we'd like to. Along the left stick, we've got the ability to turn our lane keeping system on or off. So as you can see there, the system is on because these little bowling lanes have shown up. Now the system is actually on, but it won't actually activate until we hit about 60 kilometers an hour. And those are going to go green once the system's activated. And then what's going to happen is if we start to veer over into a lane without signaling, the one that we're getting close to is actually going to go yellow before it turns red. And then that's when the system's actually going to kick in and either shake or recenter us. Now, one thing to note, you do have the ability to turn that off if you really, really don't like it. Along the right-hand side, we have rain sensing wipers, so this gives us the ability to change how sensitive it is to the rain that's hitting the windshield. Along the right side there, we've got the ability to turn on our rear wipers as well. We're going to pull in towards us for our front wipers, push away for the back. Now as we start to take a peek at the center stack, so as you can see there, we've got our engine start-stop button there, so it is push button start, and we've got the Sync 3 system. So Sync 3 system is going to give us Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. We do have to be wired in order to be able to connect through that one, but we've got that capability. We've got a ton of different options that are available here, so just going through some basics, we've got our audio settings, our phone, we've got our navigation. Now one of the nice things is that yes, we do have factory navigation, but we do have the ability to use either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay instead. So we've got the ability to use either Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze directly through this middle screen. So a ton of different options and flexibilities there. We've got some basic settings. So basic settings, we've got quite a few of them. The big ones, I'm going to point out our driver assistant. So we've got our cruise control, which either normal, adaptive, or intelligent. We've got different lane keeping modes, pre-collision assist. If the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's going to actively brake or evasively steer in order to ideally avoid the collision, or at least ideally minimize the impact of the collision. Speed sign recognition, our blind spot system, reverse brake assist, and a number of other things. So very, very smart system from that perspective. If you're looking for a more of an in-depth look at how all of these buttons work, check down in the description below for that full walk around video. As you can see, we do have a ton of options there. We've got some things that we can change up for the display. We've got some voice control settings and a number of other things. Now as we start to move down, so a few things to point out. As you can see there, this one does have park assist. We've got active park assist as well, which is great. So the park assist one is actually interesting because it can help us out with parallel parking, perpendicular parking, or parallel park out. So we've got a number of different options. That's a really, really neat one. And from there, we've got a hotkey in order to pull up some driver assistant settings, and we've also got a hot button press for our 360 camera. So as you can see there, we've got the full 360 mode going. Up along the top, we can do a front partial view, or we can change it out to a front 180-degree view instead. So really, really nice that we've got a little bit of flexibility there. Button press to get rid of it. Moving down a bit more, as you can see, we've got our piano keys in order to be able to change gears, so park, reverse, neutral, and drive. Down a bit more, we've got our basic audio buttons, so we can adjust our volume from there. We can either dim the screen or we can turn it off completely. So we've got our calming screen versus off, and then back to life again. Change our sources. We've got our tuning rocker, which this is probably going to be the least effective method of tuning, honestly. Like, you can use a direct tune on the screen instead, but your best bet is just to use this button along the steering wheel to use your voice to change the station. As we start to move down, we've got some basic climate control settings. Now, when we get the Elements package inside of the vehicle, we have a heated steering wheel and heated and cooled front seats, which is great, especially for these warmer days. Having that cooled seat going is really, really nice. Now, moving down a tiny little bit, we do have a little storage area there. We can just kind of make it out, as you can see, a 12-volt adapter, as well as our traditional USB and our USB-C in order to close this thing back up again. Moving down a tiny little bit more, we've got a selector switch for our drive modes. So we've got the ability to switch between either Excite, Conserve, we've got Normal, Slippery, or our deep conditions as well. So each mode is going to do something different. Like when we're in the Excite mode, it's going to hang onto our gears a little bit longer in order to rev the engine a bit higher. While we're in the deep snow and sand conditions, it's going to play around with our traction control and our stability control instead. Moving down a tiny little bit more, as you can see, a few cup holders. We've got our parking brake, as well as an armrest with a little bit of storage there. So as you can see, we've got a nice little storage area, and we've got the ability to move this tray out if we need to. Now moving up overhead, so a few things to point out. As you can see there, we do have an auto dimming side mirror. So we've got the ability to have this thing, it's automatically going to adjust the brightness for us. So if it's later on at night and we get those blaring lights behind us, it's automatically going to dim this for us, which is great. Up overhead, we've got some basic controls for the inside here, so we can control what's going on with our lights, which is neat. We can turn them on or off. We've got the ability to control our sunshade, and that's going to be for this twin panel sunroof. So this thing, really, really nice look. It really does open this up. Now it is available as an option, depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you are looking at. We've got the ability to vent this thing out if we want to, or we can open and close. Up overhead, as you can see, we do have our sunglasses holder. And we do have Home Link, so if we've got a garage door opener at home, we can plug that, or we can program that in. We've got a business card holder, and as you can see there, we do have a vanity light with those mirrors. Crank that open in order to slide it to extend out and cover a little bit more of that sun that might be blinding us as we drive. All right, now looking along our driver's side door. So as you can see there, we do have our unlock and our lock buttons. We've got our seat memory buttons, which are going to be great because it's going to remember our seat, our steering wheel, and our side view mirror. So we can create a few different profiles there if we'd like to. Moving down, we've got our window control buttons, so we've got the ability to power fold our side view mirrors first and foremost, and then our basic window up and down. Now this one also does have a Revel audio system, and you're going to have a number of different speakers that are available and positioned throughout the vehicle. Now, just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, so a few things to point out. So as you can see there, we've got the ability to open or close our trunk. We can turn our traction control system on or off as well. This is going to be the dimmer switches for our cluster screen, so we've got the ability to either increase or decrease the brightness from there. And we've also got the ability to figure out what's going on with our running lamps. Adjusting the driver's seat inside of the Nautilus is going to be a power process, and that's going to be the same for the driver and the passenger seat. We've got the ability to move the seat forwards, backwards, up and down. We can adjust our backrest there as well as the headrest. Now, one of the nice things about the Nautilus is that we do also have an optional massage chair seat, which is oh so nice. Really, really great for those longer distance trips. This specific one that we're sitting in doesn't have it, but it is available inside of the Nautilus, which is incredible. Adjusting the steering wheel is also going to be a power process. Just by our left knee, we've got a little button there, so a little dial pad. We can just move that forwards and backwards as it's a telescopic wheel, so we can go forwards, backwards, up and down, and really adjust it the way that we'd like. Once we've got our steering wheel set up, our seat, and our side view mirror, either press and hold 1, 2, or 3 along that driver's side door in order to set up your own personal profile. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel. So really, really nice look to this thing. Now, there is no difference from the 2020 to the 2021 model year, so the layout is the same. But let's kind of go through some of these buttons so you can figure out what's going on. So we've got the ability to change between songs or radio stations. We can either increase or decrease our volume. So very straightforward in order to be able to do that. We've also got the adaptive cruise control system inside of this vehicle as well. So optional as well, but when we get the adaptive cruise control, I do recommend getting it and using it. So the adaptive cruise control, what that's going to do is if the vehicle in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake as well before picking you right back up to your set speed again. So really, really great feature. We've got the ability to turn it on from there. So as you can see, we've got that button there. This one is going to be our distance indicator. So how far or how close are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? We've got the ability to turn our lane centering system on. So the lane centering keeping system actually works 3 different ways. Way number 1, if the vehicle senses that you start to veer over without signaling, it's going to give you a little bit of a steering wheel shake, almost as if you're running over rumble pavement. Way number 2 is it's actually going to recenter you and pull you back into your lane. And way number 3 is it'll give you a shake and it'll recenter you and pull you back into your lane again. So really, really neat. We've got the ability to either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time as well. Then we can just turn the system off if we'd like to. Along the right-hand side, we've got the ability to answer or hang up on a phone call. We've got some basic display settings. So we've got the ability to look at some different gauges. So we can add in our tachometer or an eco coach instead, which looking at that beautiful digital cluster screen, it looks incredible. We've got the ability to kind of change things a little bit. We don't have a ton of flexibility when it comes down to the overall look, but we can kind of add some things in if we'd like to. We've got basic display settings. We've got our audio. We can look at some navigation routes. And then we've also got some basic settings to look at some driver assistance settings and a few others. If you're looking for more of a rundown on how the steering wheel buttons and cluster screen works, as well as how this Sync 3 screen works, check down in the description below because I've put together a full comprehensive walk around on how this system actually works. So really, really neat. But we also do have a heated steering wheel when we get the Elements package inside of this vehicle, and it is the wraparound heat, which is great. So I honestly love the look of this thing. So this interior does look really, really sharp. We've got that nice leather dash along the side there, and it just really does pop. Now, as we start to move forward a little bit, so as you can see there, we do have our minus and our plus button. So that is going to be for our gear shifter. So we've got the ability to change out gears easily if we need to. We don't necessarily have to be in the sport mode in order to do that. But when you're in the sport mode, it's going to hold onto the gears a little bit longer. Looking along on our left turning stick, we've got the ability to turn our lane keeping system on or off if we'd like to. And we've got our high beams from there. Along the right side, we've got rain sensing wipers. So if your vehicle is equipped with rain sensing wipers, we've got the ability to adjust how sensitive it is to the rain that's hitting the windshield. Along the right-hand side of the stick there, we've got the ability to adjust what's going on with our rear wipers. We're going to pull in towards us for those front, and we're going to push away for the rear wipers. Now looking off to the right-hand side, so this is the brand new Sync 4 system for the 2021 model year. So really, really great look to it. In the previous gen, it was kind of pushed into the dash. It did look a little bit weird. So I really love the fact that they upgraded this for the 2021 model year, really bringing it more in line with the rest of the Lincoln lineup. So 12.3-inch screen. One of the nice things about this new Sync 4 system is that we've got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay now. So you could use the factory navigation if you wanted to, or you could run off of Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze directly through this middle screen, which is really, really nice. And we've got a really beautiful look and a layout here. So we've got our audio settings, phone, we've got factory navigation, and a number of other things. If you're looking for more of an in-depth look on how that system works, check down in the description below because I've put together a full comprehensive walk-around video on how this screen actually works. But looking at some basics, as you can see there, we've got some basic settings. So we've got the ability to easily add phones. We can set up our own personal profiles as well if you have multiple people driving the vehicle. We can change the display. We've got a new Lincoln Assistant as well. So we've got our voice command button on the steering wheel. radio. So our voice command button there, that's actually a neat one because that's going to give us the ability to not only change radio stations and make phone calls, but it's also going to give us the ability to use factory navigation. And if we were connected through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, we could use either our Google Assistant or Siri instead by pressing that button, which is kind of neat. Using the Lincoln Assistant, though, we can set up wake words, so we can say, hello, Lincoln, and hey, Lincoln, and it'll automatically recognize our voice for us to be able to do those same features, which is really cool. We've got a new digital owner's manual and a number of other screens. Right now, as we start to move down, so a few things to point out there. So as you can see, this vehicle is equipped with park assist, so the vehicle can help us out with either navigating to a parking spot. We can look at active park assist as well, which the vehicle can help us out with parallel perpendicular parking or parallel park out. So we've got a lot of features and functionalities there. We also do have a 360 camera. So by pressing this 360 camera button, as you can see, so it's a full wrap around, so a full 360 view. We've got a front partial view or a front 180 degree view instead. And then one more button press in order to get rid of that. Moving down a bit more, we also do have a hot button press for some basic driver assistance settings. Moving down a bit more, we've got some piano keys. So we've got the ability to change between park, reverse, neutral, drive, and we've got our sport mode. Big difference between the drive versus the sport mode. The sport mode is going to hang onto the gears a little bit longer. And we've got our push button start there. As we start to move down, we've got our volume rocker. So nice inside of this thing. Moving down, we've got some basic controls, so we've got the ability to change stations that way. Honestly, this is probably going to be the least effective method because we've got the ability to direct tune if we'd like to, or we can just press the voice command button on the steering wheel in order to use our voice to change stations instead. As we start to move down a little bit more, we've got some basic climate control settings, and then we do have heated and cooled front seats and dual zone climate control. Moving down a tiny little bit more, we've got a little shade there. We do have a wireless charging pad there, as well as a traditional USB and our USB-C. We do have a few cup holders, and picking those up, as you can see there, we do have a traditional cigarette lighter adapter and a few little spaces for some coins there as well. And we also do have the option of dropping this tray down, so if we need a little bit more storage space, we've got that flexibility as well. Now as we start to move up overhead, so this is an auto-dimming mirror as well, so really nice because if it recognizes things are a little bit too bright behind us, it's automatically going to dim the mirrors for us as well. As we start to go up overhead a little bit more, as you can see, we've got some basic controls for our lights on the inside. We've got our shade controls as well for this beautiful panoramic roof. Look at this. So nice. Fully stretched across the roof there, as you can see, but this is the only section of the roof that's going to be movable. So this front section there, but really sharp look to it. We can either vent it out or we can completely open or close it from there. Up overhead, we do have sunglasses holder there. So our sunglasses holder, really straightforward. And as you can see there, we also do have a few proximity sensors. Up along the left-hand side there, as I should say, we do have home links. We've got the ability to program in a garage door opener if we've got one at home. And we do have a traditional vanity mirror with our lights along the side. We can pop this open and we can just stretch it along the side there if we need to. Just click in order to lock it back into place. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2021 Lincoln Corsair and comparing that with the all-new Nautilus. What did you think? If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below, and I'm more than willing and happy to talk you through any issues that you might be having. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, think about sharing it with your social network, and until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.